Paltrocast.
I'm going to say good morning. Do I have the time zones correct, at least on that end?
Yeah. What is it? It's 11:30.
You never know these days who's overseas, who's on the left coast, etc. But thank you for taking the time. And the new EP is Cinco Canciones en Español. When did you actually record it?
I recorded 3 of the songs, I don't know, in the last 6 months or something, and 2 of them I had already released. The ABC en Español and Somos los Dinosaurios.
Got it. And in doing a little research, it looks like the 18th album is coming out in June, the 18th full length. Is that Walking with the Penguins?
Yeah. Very excited.
Okay, so no slowdown in 2026 for you. But in rewatching an interview that we did about 6 or 7 years ago, you were talking about wanting to expand more internationally. And here actually is that because of the EP. So I'm hearing that you're following through on a lot of goals.
I'm trying to. Yeah. That's funny. When you said that, I was like, oh, yeah, I'm not really like, where am I playing? But I actually also have a show. I don't know if you think of this as international, but I have a show in Toronto, which I'm really excited about in July. So it's going to, trying to expand in every direction.
That is totally international. If you have to show a passport to get there.
Exactly.
Exactly. So is that your first time playing live or the first time in a long time playing live in Canada?
First time in a long time. I think it's been... I'd have to look it up, but I think more than 20 years. I used to play children's festivals. I played in Toronto, Vancouver, Calgary, Saskatoon, and I think one other place. But that was many years ago. And since then, it's been no Canada until this year. So I'm excited about that.
So you've officially doubled the number of countries you've played in recent years.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
So when you're playing a show like that in Canada, is the emphasis on this new EP or upcoming album? Or are you, as a deep catalog artist, going, I have to do 2 from each record to keep the people happy?
Yeah, more like the latter. I mostly tour on kind of a greatest hits feel, so that I'm doing mostly songs that everybody came to the show to hear. And then I try to also introduce them to some of the new ones.
Sure. So another thing in one of our old interviews is I asked about the roots of Two Tomatoes Records. And it, if I remember correctly, started with like you paying a friend $50 a week to help out with little tasks and all that. When did you kind of realize that Two Tomatoes was a long-term play as opposed to, well, until I get a major label deal? That transition.
Yeah. I mean, there were some different... Hold on, my AC just turned on. Stop. There were some different periods in it, I think, where things changed. But I think really when I had been a music teacher for about 10 years out of college and for preschoolers. And around that time, like 10 years into that job, I realized I was starting to play shows. I was getting bigger venues. I had been doing a lot of birthday parties that were leading to a lot of shows and leading to a lot of connections. And I realized I could basically subsist on my sales of my albums and the record label itself. So it was probably around that time, which I think, I can't remember exactly. It might have been around in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Was the first big break, and I have to use air quotes for that, was it the Nick Jr. Noggin exposure?
That was a big break, but actually there was, before that, I was on the Today Show and I did a band performance in the Plaza, and they did a whole a bio on me. I think it was because, so stop me if I told you the story already, or maybe you want to hear it again. But it was there was a woman who was working at the Today Show whose son had been to one of the birthday parties I had been performing at, and they went home with a CD of mine, and he got very obsessed with it. So she pushed to get me on the show. And right around that time, I had also done Madonna's daughter Lola's birthday party. And then from that birthday party, I got Sting's son's birthday party. So it's just like this, they had like an angle, basically, birthday entertainer to the stars, or musician that has sort of this celebrity connections. So they did a full like bio on me, and they had me sing a couple of songs, and they did all these fun things. Like one of my songs is Pig on Her Head, where people wear animals on their head, and so they would show like in between, as they were cutting to commercial, they'd show like the camera guys wearing animals on their heads, and it was just a very like generous experience for me. And I did huge things happened that day. Like Barnes and Noble's distributor called me at home and was like, who is this person? People are calling us all over the country trying to find this music. And so that was really like that moment, I think, allowed me to see that I could do things that were much bigger than the local stuff I had been doing. And when I did actually make a connection to be on Noggin, it was because of the Today Show. I had mentioned to them that this had happened, and they were like, maybe we should make a bunch of videos with you. Let's see what happens if we do that. And that was actually before Jack's Big Music Show. And that was what made them realize that they should have me on every episode of that series instead of just the first one.
Well, it's still fascinating to me that all that happened, that chain of events, the associated positivity. Having worked in artist management in the background, some of the artists that I worked with, they had their major label deal, then they started doing children's music. In your case, were you almost ever signed to a label as a singer-songwriter outside of the children's realm?
No. It wasn't really, I mean, I was doing adult music before I started recording music for kids, but I was already a preschool music teacher at that time. I think maybe the first year out of college, I was starting to write my own music and playing in coffee houses and stuff around Manhattan. And that was a time where I think I wished that would happen. And even when I started with the kids' music, the first thing I did was reach out to labels and distributors, and they all turned me down. Right. So I basically I started my own label, and that was the thing that really made a difference for me, was to do it myself. And then, when people see that you're successful, then they become interested.
Sure. So Audible is also part of that equation with doing multiple releases to them. So at this point in time, what do we call you? Because there's you as a prolific touring and recording artist. There's you as the label head. You're an author, etc. Is there an easy way of just defining what Laurie Berkner is these days?
If you come up with something, definitely let me know. I usually just put awesome. A bunch of things. Oh, thank you.
Yeah, so it fascinates me, and pardon me if I'm overly complimenting this whole thing, but if we go through the history of people who were not signed in the traditional way, did not find success in the traditional way, and then they pushed forward, and then people picked up on the steam, and then they still continued to do it their way. They're their own kind of cottage industry. Is that a fair way to describe you, that it's kind of a cottage industry, that you're not operating around trends, you're not operating on who else is touring?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I tour when touring for me is basically playing on the weekends. And so, I just play when it works for me and when it works for the venues. I mean, at this point, it's been almost 30 years, so it's truly a long game for me. Yeah. And trends come and go, and it doesn't mean I don't notice them or I don't feel affected by them. And sometimes I certainly feel inspired by them and sometimes competitive with them. But I also feel like I tend to come back to just reminding myself, what do I do best? How can I do it best? And how can I give the most? And that has always helped me kind of stay focused and do my job and hopefully continue to be able to do it for a long time.
So how far ahead are you looking, keeping in mind there was the EP that came out in March, this full length that's coming out in June, you know, some of the tour dates. Are you working 3 projects ahead like I think you are?
Yeah, I mean, there's something else that's going to come out soon. I don't think it's been announced yet, but I finished that like 2 years ago or over a while ago. So yes, we're always kind of thinking a couple of years ahead. I have to say that is not how I ever thought I was going to live my life. I was adult diagnosed with ADHD. I definitely struggle to finish projects, but I have been very lucky in finding people who help me. And so now I have people who say, okay, let's see what the rest of this year is going to look like. Let's talk about what next year is going to look like. Let's look 3 years ahead and what do you want to be doing? That used to terrify me to think that far ahead. It was like my brain didn't work like that. But practice helps, and I do try to work on things ahead of time because also people need time to be able to market stuff and get it, make sure that it's right. And I certainly want to only put out things that I'm really proud of.
And I didn't mention, with all the things going on, the off-Broadway musicals and the New York City Children's Theater, etc. So I don't know how you managed to get it all done, but is songwriting for you like a 9 to 5 that you write every single day, or do you have to have a project to write for?
It's sort of in between. Like I don't sit down and write every day, but I journal. Like I let creative ideas come through me pretty much every day. And a lot of those end up becoming songs. I'm always listening. When I sit down to really write a song, it's usually because I've carved out that time, someone who helps me keep on top of my calendar, which also I could not do by myself. And they make sure that I have what we call sacred writing time, which unfortunately is not always that sacred. Like people, it doesn't matter. People always still try to reach me during that time, but I do try to spend specific time, and sometimes it's for a project, but a lot of times I want to just keep writing. I mean, we're releasing singles kind of continuously now because streaming is such a different way of consuming music than, you know, it used to be when people bought records, tapes, CDs. So yes, I'm always kind of working on something, but it might not be a whole big project. It might just be one song.
Well, I have one more writer question for you, one hobby question for you, and then you're free. You ready?
Okay. Yeah, go for it.
Usually when artists have a track record of success and people know, hey, they can write a hook, and of course your music is not short on hooks, they get invited to writer camps, these songwriter partnership camps where it's, hey, we'll put all these people up for 5 days. We'll see if they can write a Rihanna song. We'll see if they can write this kind of song. Were you ever in any of these writer camps?
No, but I'm available.
Duly noted that you were available to expand outside the scope, but not desperate. Yes? Okay.
Not yet.
And then the last question is, you're a touring artist, and usually whatever your day job is, you have to have a line of separation to some extent. But what's the last concert that you went to for fun?
Well, I haven't seen a concert recently that I can think of, but I did last week go see Titanic on Broadway. So I like to see Broadway musicals. They're very accessible here I'm in New York City. And I have to say Ariana Grande's brother was in it.
Frankie. Yeah.
But Frankie. Yeah. So it was fantastic. The singing blew me away. So I really enjoyed that. And I have some tickets to some other shows coming up that I'm excited about too.
Okay, good answer with all that. Well, thank you for the many years of great music. Looking forward to what's to come, including the super secretive things. But really, thank you for being a good influence, not just in the music, but how you do business. Thank you for being the Ian MacKaye and Fugazi of children's music. And I mean that in a good way.
Thank you. It was great to talk to you.
Paltrocast. Good evening. I have the time zone correct. You're still a New Yorker these years later?
Yes, I'm still in New York.
We'll come back to that, but how's your day going aside from talking to fake news media today?
Oh my God, that's I'm having a great day. I'm really excited to talk to you.
Oh, well, likewise, likewise.
Uh,
You fall into the sweet spot of what I like to cover, which one of those obsessive topics is Long Islanders who are doing amazing, and Long Island doesn't embrace it or realize that it's one of their own, that it's happening.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm from Long Island, grew up here, born and raised, and I love it here. I still live here. And that's very funny that you say that. Thank you for saying that.
Well, think about it. If we look at the pop charts right now, Olivia Rodrigo, a lot of her stuff is co-written and produced by a guy from Massapequa. Yeah.
Nice.
Dave Grohl's Daughter's album produced by another guy from Massapequa. The McCartney and Pearl Jam album's a guy from Great Neck. And where are the Long Islanders talking about that? And in your case, where are the Long Islanders talking about the Rolling Stone placement and all that stuff?
Yes, yes. Yeah, I mean, there's so much Long Island talent. And growing up around that, I feel like it was very exciting because it felt like success, if it could happen to Lindsay Lohan, it could happen to any of us. So it's an inspiring thing being from Long Island.
Sure. So how did all this start happening in the case of not just Rolling Stone, New York Fashion Week, the Ultra Baddie getting placements here and there? Was that starting with social media?
Yes, I think social media has played a huge part in being able to reach a bigger audience and do, cooler things. I've been doing this for a long time. I started writing when I was 6 years old, and I started performing around Long Island when I was 10, anywhere that I could sing. And I've just been working for, my whole life. I went to Berklee College of Music, and I lived in Boston for a few years, and I graduated in 2019. And yeah, I think social media has played a big part in me, creating my fan base and finding my real true fans, and has allowed me to do really cool opportunities like you were talking about.
The Berklee schooling I was aware of, but how does that compare to the music that you put out? Because obviously what you put out is sophisticated, but you have to listen closely to pick up on a lot of that. And I can't imagine this is what the Berklee people are going, hey, you should be doing that.
I think that Berklee is a real melting pot. Yes, you do learn and study a lot of jazz music, but when I was there, I took a whole songwriting class about John Lennon and his effect that he had on pop music. A good amount of what he did as a songwriter was, he was simplistic, but he was also had so much depth. So I think when you bring up Berklee, I was around so many different types of artists. I was around rappers, people that played rock music. And although you kind of study, primarily the jazz and the contemporary stuff, everybody is really trying to make, all different types of music. But that's funny that you said that. I always try to make my pop music a little bit very catchy, but always have that undertone of sophisticated, like you said.
So there are jazz chords and all that in your background and your music knowledge and all that?
I am a music theory nerd, and I love I think vocal production is like a big part of what I do. So
Right.
I do love jazz music. I think that it's probably not what you would gain from listening to my pop stuff, but yeah, I think Berklee taught me a lot, but it also outside of the classroom taught me a lot.
Sure. Going through social media, we actually see you working the computer, doing the production yourself. Did you start off before Berklee doing all that yourself as well? Or is that a Berklee acquired skill?
Not really. When I was at Berklee, I was in writing sessions with really talented producers, and I just found myself really, I was just like watching them, and I was so fascinated by what they were doing. So I would just ask my producer friends, like, oh, how did you do that? You do have to take an intro production course. Every student has to take it at Berklee. So I did start there, but it was really more outside of class that I would just ask my friends, little advice here and there, how to use an interface. Like I started from the the beginning. And yeah, by the time that I graduated, I was producing.
Sure. So Ultra Baddie is the EP, and Relapse got a lot of traction and is still getting a lot of traction. But when did you actually finish the EP?
So I had a lot of those songs pre-COVID, and I had written them, some of them with people that I went to Berkeley with. I had basically had it finished for a few years. Mixing and mastering wise, I was kind of going in and making little tweaks, but I had the track list and the songs since 2020, and I added probably 2 more songs onto that since it did come out in 2025. But yeah, the pandemic played a role in that, being independent played a role in that, but I was able to just really refine it, which was, nice.
Where was it recorded for the most part?
A good portion of it, in apartments at Berkeley in Boston. I recorded like the vocals for Conceited in a friend's apartment in the living room. So it was kind of just everywhere. And 3 of the songs I tracked myself.
So with the album, the roots of it going back years like that, does that mean that you're always or already thinking of the next project, next EP, the next album, the next single?
Yes, I definitely was. I think I visually had a really strong identity for what I wanted that project to be. And, as the years went on, I felt like I kind of grew out of it. It was very me, but I was very excited to move forward and, show people all the rest of the music that I had been making. So yeah, I made Relapse last year, probably a month or so after I dropped my EP. And it felt like, I was really getting like a major centerpiece of what I wanted to be my next project.
So you mentioned before that growing up, you'd play anywhere you could on Long Island. What were some of the venues that you won't be embarrassed to say that you performed at?
I won't be embarrassed. Well, the first time that I ever sang, I sang at the Wantagh Bowling Alley at the Pins for Polly Foundation, which is a foundation that raises money for children's leukemia.
Sure.
And that was the first place that I ever played. It was in a bowling alley for a great cause. But other places that I've played at the Bitter End, the Cutting Room, Mercury Lounge, Stephen Talk House, Suffolk Theater. I opened up for Rick Derringer when I was 17.
Wow.
Yeah, that was great times. May he rest in peace. But yeah, I've at my church. I've performed in a lot of different places.
Hearing those venues, the kind of band that you'd play with at the Mercury Lounge is not the kind of band you'd play with at the bowling alley. So it sounds like you were doing a mix of solo karaoke, fronting a band, just a mix of things.
I was playing for myself until I was about 18. It was usually like I said, the first gig that I played, it was me and the piano, and then it kind of just elevated to me and the guitar. And when I opened up for Rick, it was just me and the guitar. But I had always wanted to sing with a band. Like that was always how I envisioned myself. And when I was 18, I did my first band show at the Cutting Room, and that's how I like to play, is with a band.
Fortunately, it's the new Cutting Room. The old Cutting Room was a very different venue, which you wouldn't have wanted to play. This one had a real stage.
Yeah, the Cutting Room is beautiful and has incredible sound.
For sure. So are there tour dates planned in support of Ultra Baddie?
I'm working on things at the moment. I did play a few things earlier this year, but I'm planning things. There's a couple of things in the works.
So for us to find out when we should find out, is that a follow you on Instagram thing or follow on TikTok where there's the millions of followers, one of those things?
They can follow me on social media. I also have a mailing list. I have like a phone number and email mailing list that I tell all of them first whenever I do something, but definitely on social media. I'll be posting.
two more Long Island questions, if you don't mind.
Don't mind at
Okay.
all.
First one, there's a rumor you're from the town of Merrick, where Lindsay Lohan has her roots, and a lot of notable people came from Merrick. Did that give you any kind of inspiration of, hey, these people made it, I could too, or is that just a fairy tale thing?
I love Lindsay Lohan. I love The Parent Trap. I love Mean Girls. She is an incredible actress and such a talented person. So coming from the same town as her, it is really inspirational to see someone grow up in the same place as you and have, be this huge star who just takes over the world. So it's very inspiring. I was always inspired by all of the different talent that's from Long Island because they all came from the same place and made it.
Sure. So the second Long Island question, then one career question, and then you're free for me. The other Long Island question is, what's the last concert that you actually saw on Long Island?
I went and I saw Keith Urban last summer at Jones Beach, and he was phenomenal.
Didn't he do You Get What You Give by the New Radicals in that show?
I believe so. He was just, I've seen him before. I had seen him at Fold Festival. I don't know if you remember Fold Fest.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, incredible music festival. I saw him in 2015, and I just felt like it was you would hope 10 years later it was a whole new show, but I feel like I just saw him in such a different light. He is so, so talented.
And the last question I have for you, one of the people that you opened for is Evangelia, who has such a fascinating career where she has her Greece, Cyprus portion of her career, and then she has her New York, U.S. kind of situation. I know that she tracks some of her stuff in Greek. Have you tracked any of your stuff in Greek? Is there a secret second career that we don't know about?
I have never recorded in Greek. And it's funny because being Greek is such a big part of my identity. I would love to cover a Greek song or incorporate Greek in something that I do. I think what Evangelia has done is really, really beautiful, how she's been able to mix both of the languages, but I don't have a secret Greek song at the moment, but anything could happen.
I mean, Phil X from Bon Jovi, he has his secret Greek past, and Tommy Lee has his secret Greek past. Yeah. You never know who does, but not you.
There's a lot of Greeks in the industry. I think we need to start singing in Greek or doing things in Greek.
You'd be the leader. But in the meantime, it's really great to see what you're doing, and I'm looking forward to what's to come from you, whether it's the follow-up recordings, whether it's live, etc. Keep up the great work, Maria.
Thank you so much. You're so sweet. And thank you for having me again.
Paltrocast.